Hello guys, welcome to another day with Zimaleta. Right behind me is a Sprinter that this is the one I just purchased. So I got this from a buddy of mine in one of my videos, third one back. From this one I actually talked a little bit about it, how I came into owning this Sprinter and stuff like that. If you want to see that, you could watch that other video. But the problem with this one here is that it doesn't start, okay? And the shop that was working on it claimed that the engine is just not good. The compression is low, bad, it's just not really good, which I don't think they're telling the truth. But what I want to do is I want to actually figure this out on my own. So in order to know the truth, I need to look at it for myself and to try to actually reverse everything back, you know, into finding out exactly kind of like what took place when they're actually diagnosing this vehicle, because they charge a heck of a lot of money, $465 to actually diagnose the Sprinter here. And they were not really clear on the pricing. They just basically threw the number out there, and that's what they chose to do. So I want to actually find out, did they actually did a compression test to begin with? Because glow plugs are difficult to remove a lot of times in these Sprinters. If they're going to be easy to remove on the Sprinter, then chances are that they did it. But they didn't give me no readings. And of course, I will do a compression test on it myself if I find it necessary. But of course, I'll still do it. But if I start the vehicle before then, you know, then it's obviously it's not a compression issue, because they were claiming it's because there's low compression and 4 cylinders, only one of them is good, that's why it was not starting. I beg to differ, because I don't think they know what they're talking about at that shop, even though they claim they've been doing this for the past 30 years, and 2,000 of these has went through the shop. First of all, 30 years ago there were no Sprinters, okay? And this is a United States shop, not a Europe shop. We started actually getting these things imported into the United States in 2002, and 2002 and 3 models were different than 2004, 5, and 6. This is why I choose to buy 4, 5, and 6, because you could interchange parts, but you cannot do it with the 2002 and 3. I know enough about these Sprinters to understand how they work, and most likely I could actually figure out what's wrong with this Sprinter. And you know, if it's supposed to start, it's gonna start. I mean, if it is something bad internally, well then I guess there's nothing you could do. You know, if it's not gonna start with everything that I'm getting ready to do to it, then I guess it's just you're gonna need to look deeper. Most likely just get another engine, because you know, it's not gonna make a lot of sense for you to pay somebody to rebuild the engine. You know, might as well just already get a remanufactured one from like Mercedes or somewhere on Google, because chances are you could find a pretty good deal and, you know, have somebody install it or install it yourself. But main thing for me is to find out, you know, was that shop telling the truth to my friend here when he actually was getting a vehicle diagnosed. And another thing is, I want to know for myself, why is it not starting? Actually, I haven't done nothing to it yet, so I will be looking at it fresh. Of course, I would have loved to try to crank it for you guys, but at this point, I don't even know if it cranks, okay? Because the battery is completely dead. I actually got it with a dead battery, you know, so it was not cranking or nothing. So, you know, who knows? So what I'm gonna try to do is, I have a really good battery in that silver Sprinter over there, and in the last video I told you I'm gonna be pulling it out. I'm gonna stick it in this one here. And by the way, when I actually park vehicles like that, I actually disconnect a negative cable to prevent the battery from draining. And of course, this bed, I'll find out if it's good enough for charging, charge it up, and you know, it's probably gonna go back in it, and that other good battery is gonna go back into the silver Sprinter. But I'm gonna throw a battery in here, and let me pop the hood open and just kind of like give you guys a little bit more, you know, closer look at kind of like what's going on here. Okay, here's basically underneath the hood. I've placed the plastic cover back over here. I know you cannot really see me, but that's okay. this is kind of like what it looks like right now. I'm actually using my front camera. It seems like it's pretty good. Let's see here. There's some kind of rag here, so I'll just remove the cover. So let me remove the camera. I'm gonna try to actually give you guys a closer look at the fuel injectors. And actually, let me turn on the light. So right now we have the light on. And I mainly wanted to kind of show you guys the black stuff over there. Usually it's supposed to be completely clean, but you could kind of see that there is, I don't know, some kind of dirt there. You could actually kind of see way over there. You could kind of almost see like there was some leaky diesel or whatever. There's like these lines left, kind of like you would get like in a little lake or whatever. And it's not just shadows. You could see this lid at one point, or this point, was filled up with diesel. And if you take a closer look, you could kind of see it's still kind of wet a little bit back here, and this is not rainwater. So possibly we got a leaky fuel injector situation here. Of course, you know, we could find this out if we could turn the Sprinter on. Then we could see what's going on, but you know, we cannot turn it on. Nobody was able to turn it on to even actually see if these fuel injectors are leaking. But I would have been able to tell you guys this pretty quick if it was a leaky fuel injector. So I'm trying to look at it further, and upon further inspection, I could see that this fuel injector here, it is the most dirtiest of them all. There's actually a lot of grime and everything stuck on it, and there's actually a little place where some of the stuff has peeled away. You could kind of see it there. And as you could see, this fuel injector looks a lot cleaner. It most kind of tells me, I mean, this is either a brand new injector, because that's the kind of color they're supposed to be. You could kind of see the nut is not even kind of rusted or nothing. Usually they are a little bit. So possibly this fuel injector has been replaced before, and maybe it is still good. Also, I'm kind of looking at this, and it's kind of hard to tell, but sometimes these nozzles are plastics and sometimes they're metal, and it kind of looks like this one kind of looks like it possibly is metal, but it's the color is different now. Usually they're black if they're plastic, and they're really brittle and they'll break and stuff. But I guess you know, it's kind of hard to tell right now, you know. But anyways, that's besides the point. If you look at these other injectors, these other three here, you could actually see that those injectors, they have these little nuts on them, you know, like where they're put together, a little bit rusty. And this one is not, and possibly this one was replaced too. So there's a good chance that there's a fuel injector issue. Also, if the Sprinter is not starting, it could be this fuel rail right here. And also it can be high pressure fuel pump, which is located right here. These three things can cause your vehicle not to start, okay? Now, if this piece, which is a mass airflow sensor, goes bad, your vehicle will start up and die right away. So, you know, I'm not sure what was happening if it ever started off and died. So just sometimes, just by simply disconnecting this here, it's kind of stuck in there. I don't want to get my hands too dirty, but sometimes you just disconnect it, and it's gonna basically start up just fine without it. Then you immediately understand that that was a mass airflow sensor type of deal. But this Sprinter might have several problems in one, okay? By the way, I do want to mention, if it was a leaking fuel injector, it does not necessarily mean that it's not going to start. Leaky fuel injector is still going to start. It just leaks diesel as it's working, because the copper washer that's in there, which is actually designed kind of like a contact lens, it has a special shape to it that really hugs the head and the fuel injector and really closes the gap. You just cannot use a standard copper washer in there, and you got to install it the right way. You know, but these fuel injectors, if they develop a leaky fuel injector situation, which is a different type of leaking, like the one I was referring to right now is fuel injector leaking out diesel, kind of like from basically like into this area, and in the back of this little head cover here, there's like a hole over there in the back. You cannot really see it right now, but it's kind of sits kind of like a little bit lower than the last injector, and there's actually like a rubber hose. It kind of goes in between the engine and transmission, and sometimes if you climb underneath there, you're like thinking, well, why is that line? Is this a fuel line? Because it kind of looks like a fuel line. Why is that hanging down there? And that would basically be kind of concerning to you guys, especially if you don't know where it came from. Should it be connected to something? And it really should be just the way it is. It is usually zip tied, you know, or using some standard type of plastic type of holding type of things, you know, like so it could be held to the part of the engine or transmission type of situation, you know, so it doesn't really, you know, go anywhere. But from what I could see, this engine has a lot of wet spots in it, so it's definitely got a leaky type of head cover. So this head cover, the way it's on, I could see it kind of leaks all the way around it. So it's just you know, that needs a new seal. Yeah, I wanted to kind of get back to the leaky fuel injector. If the fuel injector itself, you know, when it's actually supposed to be spraying diesel inside of the cylinder, if it doesn't spray anymore, but it's more kind of like just stuck and open, it's just basically open, it doesn't even close this up, you know, it's constantly spraying, then when you're going to try to turn your Sprinter on, it's actually not going to start. It's actually going to be like turning over, but nothing's really happening, because that fuel injector, it's, you know, it's just leaking diesel into the cylinder. And what's going to happen is, it's kind of like at one point it's going to be really even hard to turn the engine over, because the Sprinter, its engine is choking on its own diesel, and the key might be even really hard to rotate. And of course, even if you do a compression test, it could throw you off, because there's diesel inside the cylinder, so you know it's not going to give you, you know, correct readings. So I'm almost kind of thinking it's probably like a leaky fuel injector type of situation, and most likely if I replace this one fuel injector here, problem could be solved. But of course, you know, those other ones, seems like nobody really messed with them before. It could be one of them, you know, so who knows. One thing for sure is, if I replace one of the fuel injectors doesn't start, I'll just replace others, because I do have fuel injectors, and until it starts up. And if it doesn't start with all the new fuel injectors I put in it, because I do have them, so I could actually kind of throw parts at it. You know, of course, if I had proper equipment, like at a shop, I could test each fuel injector. But I'll tell you, even Mercedes shops, they don't even test like the fuel injector. If it doesn't start, they'll just say replace all fuel injectors. They're not gonna just you know, be replacing one or whatever. Trust me, I've seen that situation with one of my friends. He had one fuel injector bad, and Mercedes recommended he replace all of them, and that's the only way it's going to be warranted, so that's what he did. Yeah, so that is pretty much it for what I want to talk about in this video. So I hope you guys kind of like this little tour around the Sprinter vehicle. I know it's not much, but if you're dealing with a Sprinter starting situation where it doesn't start anymore, well, you're just trying to learn as much as you can, and I want to throw out as much as I can in that little situation. I mean, there's really a lot more that I could talk about. It's just going to be kind of like irrelevant, because it's really hard to test those things, and unless you throw those parts at it, then, you know, you're just not going to achieve anything. Because sometimes the fuel rail itself, it's got like two sensors. If you replace the sensors, then it's going to start. But I only believe that they sell one of them, and I think the other one you cannot really replace it. Who knows? I never had to deal with it myself in replacing the fuel rail sensors. Mostly people just buy one for like 900 bucks, and that's what they pop in a vehicle, because a lot of times if it's low fuel rail pressure and if it's not your fuel injectors, then it's the fuel rail itself that's causing the issue. And sometimes it's actually the high pressure fuel pump. Sometimes it's leaking, and that's why it's not starting, because it just leaks so bad. And obviously that engine's kind of moist. I wouldn't be too surprised that this high pressure fuel pump is leaking. It can be. It can be, and one of the reasons I can actually tell, if I actually go right now and I could actually look at the alternator, if it's really kind of like really grimy and dirty, alternator should not be like that. That means it's getting diesel into the alternator, and this is why it is so like gunked up and stuff. Because the way it happens is if the high pressure fuel pump is actually leaking, at the bottom of the high pressure fuel pump there's actually like a little cutaway. They did it like on purpose, kind of like a little triangle, and diesel will actually leak out of there, and it's going to go down the engine. And the way it leaks is it's actually just going to go in the alternator. That's just the way it's designed. And I'm speaking from experience here. I had to one time replace this thing at 2 o'clock in the morning in the snow in like -10-degree weather. And some of you guys that know about this high pressure fuel pump, I'm pretty sure you're not surprised, because what happens is the high pressure fuel pump, it kind of mostly like fails in cold weather. It's made out of 2 different type of metals, and what happens is in the warm weather the metal is properly expanded, and you know, if it is a minor leak, it's just really not going to show up that good. But if it's really cold out, especially like negative temperatures, the metal becomes like more like you know, condensed, I guess. Well, actually, you know, come to think of it, if you got a stock bolt situation, you know, we're basically heating up the actual area around the bolt, if the bolt is inside. So when you heat it up, it actually expands, you know, and therefore, you know, it's easier to, you know, take the bolt out, which is kind of like a little bit confusing, because it seems like it acts really differently from like water type of you know, like situation, because technically, like when water freezes, water expands, and you know, obviously, you know, you could see that, like if you have like a frozen milk jug, it's just gonna completely like expand out and stuff. And with the metal, I believe it actually shrinks. So it's a bit confusing type of topic. I'm not a scientist here, but obviously, you know, for like stuck nuts and stuff, you'll actually want to heat up the nut, and the nut actually will expand a little bit, and causing it to be a lot easier to actually remove it. And I guess as the metal cools, it shrinks, which is kind of doesn't make much sense, but that's just how it does. It's just really weird that with the water and metal, it's just 2 different things that are actually happening. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a scientist here, so this is not a science show, you know. But obviously, a high pressure fuel pump, it basically, when it's wintertime, I guess the metal shrinks even more, and it actually starts leaking a lot more. But in the summertime, it's a proper type of you know, situation where it seals up nice. You know, it doesn't really create gaps. But in the wintertime, it just creates gaps, and it will start leaking, especially if you already had that problem situation happening. But anyways, guys, you know, that's what it is there with a high pressure fuel pump. You know, so I want to give you guys as much information as I can about it. I have good videos already on that topic. But when something's not starting, you got to look at all the possibilities. But also, I do want to kind of say that high pressure fuel pump, even though it's leaking, it still will start up. So not necessarily it's going to start up, but there is a sensor on the high pressure fuel pump, which I did want to talk about, that if that sensor goes out, you cannot start it up. So it could be the sensor. So this is why, you know, this Sprinter is a really complicated type of vehicle, and I try to talk about it in not a complicated way. I try to talk about it with like a normal language that we could understand, because I like to look at things simply, not like it's a really hard thing to do, because some of the shops I talk to, like, yeah, this is so complicated, and you know, and they make it look like they understand it, but really a lot of times they're just guessing. And if you know more than them, chances are they're blowing smoke in your face and they're making you think that you don't know what the heck, nothing about a sprinter, you know, and they'll just basically tell you whatever they think you'll believe. And believe me, that happens more often than you would think, and that's really bad when that does happen. So somebody like me needs to actually step up and explain a little bit more, kind of like what's going on. That way you could understand and make a better decision. What do you want to do, you know? Maybe you want to do the work yourself, because some of this work is not that difficult. It takes time, but it's not that difficult to do. So anyways, guys, this video is coming to a close. So if you guys liked it, hit a like. If you want to subscribe, subscribe. I will, if you know, actually figure out what is wrong with the Sprinter. If the engine is not bad, we'll actually get it to start, and I don't have to, you know, mess with it for a month to, you know, figure out, you know, what the heck is wrong with it. I just hope I'll have the time to do it, because right now it's Saturday and tomorrow's Mother's Day. The day is almost over, you know, and it's kind of getting ready to rain. But what I want to do is actually I'll shoot a video on it. So right now, actually, right after this one, and I'll try to hunt the situation down a little bit. At least we'll understand kind of like what's going on, if it's turning over, what's going on, what are we hearing, you know. So I want to do that in the next video. So next video, that's what you could look forward to, is me installing the battery to it. We're gonna get it turned over, and we're gonna try to mess with it a little bit. You know, we'll probably actually replace that fuel injector or whatever, and try to see if it's gonna start then, if it was a fuel injector issue. But anyways, guys, see you in my next video. Take care, and let me know in the comments below the whole situation with the metal heating up and shrinking and stuff like that, because I know when I was talking about it, man, I got so confused. I'm thinking, did I not have enough coffee today or what, you know? Because it seems like I am really confused about it, you know. And I think I did kind of like unravel the situation, but I'm still not convinced. So correct me if I'm wrong. See you guys later, you know. Bye-bye.